brief video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the training or practice system in UNITAF and how we sort of track people's experience in the game. I'm not really going to touch on the rank system because whilst integrated into this, it's slightly separate. So this video is sort of going to cover how we tackle standard operating procedure, how we have a training system that sort of represents how skilled people are in certain areas. So we have 11 basic areas of competence that you can see on our website, and the best way to find it is just by clicking on the practice menu, which is what we're looking at now. And so what they aim to do is group in-game roles into wider areas that are related. So for example, if we take communication and we click on roles, it'll open up the roles center, and we can see that communication roles cover things like radio operator, forward observer, and JTAC. So these are roles that are very communication procedure heavy, so they're all grouped under one area. The theory being that if you've spent 50 hours as a radio operator, you're going to be better at being a forward observer or a JTAC than somebody who hasn't. You'll notice here that there's also tiering, so you can see here that the radio operator is a tier 1 role, and you'll also notice that the forward observer is a tier 2 and the joint terminal attack controller is a tier 3. A good example of the tier system would be in field leadership. So if we look at field leadership, we can see that we have a tier 1 role, a tier 2 role, and a tier 3 role. And the theory again here with the fire team leader, the squad leader, and the platoon leader is that to be a good squad leader, you need to know what it's like to be a fire team leader, and to be a good platoon leader, you need to know what it's like to be a squad leader. So the tiering basically means to do a tier 2 role, you need to have achieved tier 2. To do a tier 3 role, you need to have achieved tier 3. So really, restrictions on roles in game for official ops is not really based on rank at all. It's based on your tier. And this is across all roles. If we look at medical, the basic line medics that can do certain elements, tier 1, a squad medic tier 2, a platoon medic tier 3, and so on. And this carries across all roles in all areas, and you can obviously navigate that yourself from the website. So that's the roles and how they fit into the areas. Then we've got the standard operating procedures, or SOP. So again, from the practice menu, you can click on the SOP button, and what it will do is tell you all of the SOP that falls within that area. So basically everything you need to know, and it's kept relatively short. For example, one of the roles or one of the procedures for basic infantry is knowing the rules of engagement. So you click on that, and obviously it explains how it works, so that you can check it if you need to. It's important to note we don't require anyone to read the SOP. A lot of the SOP practice is done in game. In dedicated practice sessions, but it's there for your reference, and if you're the type of person that likes to look at it, then there is SOP for all of our procedures written down on the website. The final sort of piece of the jigsaw puzzle is the progress screen. So when you're logged in, you'll be able to click on this progress screen, and what this is doing is it's showing you within that area how you're progressing. So you can see on my profile, from the virtue of the green square, that I've achieved tier 1 in basic infantry, and you can see that there's no prerequisites to achieve tier 1, but I do need a certain amount of operational hours and practice hours. Now I don't know how many it is, I think it's 20 op hours and 4 practice hours. It doesn't actually tell me on this screen, but you can see I've achieved it, and you can see by virtue of achieving it, I've unlocked the ability to get tier 1 in all of the other areas, because basic infantry is a requirement for everyone. Here I can also see my progress towards tier 2, which again has no prerequisites, but I need another 17 hours in operations playing as basic infantry roles in order to achieve tier 2. And I would unlock the grenadier role and the Orbat at the tier 2 stage. We can see here that I've got 2.6 op hours for playing as rifleman, and you can see where all my practice hours have come from and what dates I got them. So op hours are given to anyone for every operation that they attend, casual or official, and if you play 2 hours as a rifleman, you'll get 2 hours in your rifleman area, for an example. Practice hours are given for practice operations, and there's other ways that you can get practice hours in the pipeline. One of them, for example, would be through your NCO. So if you've done something that's not specifically an in-game training, but you've done some sort of practice, maybe outside the game, maybe some comms, maybe some flying, you can also be credited practice hours in that way as well. So it's a combination of practice and op hours that contribute to your tier. The best way to look at a tier is it's a rank within a certain field area, whereas your rank is your global representation of all areas. So there's a few other points of interest. If we navigate to my dossier, on the left hand side on the practice record, we can have a look at my overall progress in all areas, so I can see where my tiers are at in each area and how many hours I've got. You'll notice that most of my hours are in field leadership, which has 3 tiers, and you can see that I'm progressing currently very well in that I have achieved all the operational requirements for tier 3, but I haven't done enough practice. I haven't practiced the SOP enough in sessions to achieve tier 3, so I've still got another half an hour to go, or 45 minutes to go, to get my tier 1, another 2.5 hours for tier 2, and another 6.5 hours for tier 3. And again, you can see along the bottom what roles I'll unlock as I do that. So it's relatively straightforward. You can also look at other people's. So if I navigate to for example, Bradley's profile, go to his practice record, I can obviously look at his tier, so he's tier 2 there, and I can click on that. So I'm able to look at other people's things here. You'll also notice something in the bottom right here that you won't see, but NCOs will see, which is basically it's showing me here for Brad's basic infantry all the procedures for that and when the last time he trained them were. So today is the 4th of April. We actually did an FTX last night, and you'll see that Brad practiced all of these SOPs yesterday. That was the last time he did it. So there's a few extra features in there for NCOs. NCOs can also flag SOP. Sorry Brad, I'm just going to flag you there. And it's a completely anonymous thing. What it allows us to do is crowdsource flagging to see where our biggest weaknesses are, and then we can tailor our practice sessions towards those. So it's not really a punitive system, it's just a way of us knowing what we need to improve at as a whole rather than as individuals. And the final piece of the jigsaw puzzle really is the Orbats. So at the moment on our Orbats, we don't run locking based on training. It's based on rank. But you'll notice on the right-hand side here that it says this deployment is an official operation, which means it'll enforce Orbat rank and training requirements. And the principle behind that is that in the long run, when you go to an Orbat, it's not going to really care too much about your rank, but what it will do is care about what tier you are in the role you're trying to deploy to. So if you're trying to deploy to a combat lifesaver role, it wants you to be at least tier 1 in the medical area. And if you deploy as a squad medic, it wants you to be tier 2. There are other things that we can do with this, which is if you've deployed as a light anti-tank rifleman, but you're actually tier 3 in anti-armour, is that through this Orbat system you could upgrade yourself to a heavy AT specialist or a medium AT specialist if it was allowed by the Orbat itself. So it's a way of controlling people's access to roles, things like leadership, things like pilot, things like mortars, where you need a bit of extra specialist knowledge. And for those of you that do go out and put the extra effort in to practice this SOP, you'll be afforded those specialist roles on the Orbat. So again, it's not fully implemented in that we don't enforce tiering on Orbats at the moment, because what we want to do is give everyone a chance to achieve the tiers that they want. But very soon that'll be kicking into force. So hopefully this has been a relatively rounded introduction to how the training system works, how the SOP comes into it, and how you can look at your progression and how you can progress through the system. If you do have any further questions, there's a channel on TeamSpeak, I believe called J6, Training and SOP, which is really the best place to direct questions for the training system, or if there's anything else that you need, if you go to your direct NCO or staff member, and they'll be able to help you. So thank you very much for watching.